When I think of the word positivity, the first name that comes to my mind is Daniel Ficco. Daniel is one of my longest and closest friends, and someone I hold very close to my heart. You know those people in your life that you don't always agree with but have the ultimate respect for? Even though our lives look very different, we always come back to the same thing: respect, positivity, self-development, and support. This episode is based around our hardest times being our best times, in regards to it creating the foundation of who we choose to become. Daniel is a cafe owner, husband, and father to two beautiful children. In this episode, Daniel shares his IVF journey through the lens of the father and everything he endured on the road to conceiving his first daughter. I believe the male lens is so important, as it tends to be silenced by themselves or those around them. The male lens seems to always be different to the females, as our goals are always different. They choose safety and for their partners to be happy, and sometimes it can come at a cost of their own happiness. Our hardest times are our gift to see how we handle situations, and with the gift of hindsight, how we can do better and be better next time. Well, that's enough from me, guys. Let's jump straight in. Welcome to the Honesty Policy Hour. I'm your host, Stephanie Marie, and it's time to put everything on the table on this beautiful journey of healing all areas of our lives, one deep conversation at a time. Hi, Daniel.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
How you feeling?
I'm tired, but I'm good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's good. And you got to say it. I'm always good.
Yeah, I'm always good. Everyone coming into the shop and saying, "Hey, how you going?" Yeah, I'm always good.
I love that. I think that's beautiful. It's such a you thing. Doesn't matter how shit your day is. It's always very positive, and I love that.
I think part of who I am and what I do every day, I think people underestimate how many people I do talk to every day.
It's like me at the gym. You don't stop.
No. And it's 5-minute conversations, not even 3-minute conversations.
Yeah.
The same thing. How's your day?
Yeah.
How's your weekend?
Yeah.
How's things going? Continuing topics every single day.
On repeat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny, when you don't know someone who comes in and to the cafe and they say, "Have a nice day." That actually really affects me. It's just like, oh, good, someone actually cares. It's like someone says, "Have a nice day."
They go that extra mile.
Yeah. I used to count how many times a day someone would say it. Yeah.
People from the shop now, if they listen, they're all going to say that now. Next week you're going to hear it all. Have a nice day.
Oh, I get that all the time. They say, like, "You're always good." No one's ever always good. And I said, "No, I'm always good."
I'm always good. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Life can be shit, but it's always good to look at all the beautiful things that are happening, because there's always gifts present, regardless of how shit it is.
I think, and the people who know me will know this, is that I look at every positive out of every situation first. It doesn't matter what is happening. And yeah, there's people that have seen more than me, and I've seen and been around quite a bit. But I think you have to think firstly, okay, what is the positive out of the situation? What is something that's going to actually help the situation? Not, okay, we're in this problem, or there's something happened, or something's gone wrong, or something's gone right. What's the good out of it?
Yeah. Mark always says to me, "I don't want problems, I want solutions."
And sometimes I feel like a firefighter, always putting out fires.
I love it. We've actually got it written on our ensuite mirror: only solutions, not problems. So I think it's really important, because we tend to focus on the negative always when there's lots of negatives, especially if there's multiple big ones. It's very, very easy to do.
I think putting the negative thought first is just easier.
Of course it is. It's harder to be positive. It's harder to be happy. It's harder to constantly look at the gifts, because it's like, I always hear, like, when you read like scriptures and stuff like that, they always say, like, be grateful for the roof over your head, the bed that you wake up into, the warm blanket in the morning, all the small things, water to drink. And then you're just like, fuck, like you have to kind of snap yourself out of like into doing it, because you constantly like, but I want the other things to be good. It's really hard to focus on the small things, but when you do, and you do tap into that mind frame, it does help a lot. Gratitude is a really beautiful gift.
Something that I've only really thought about this year is how to be grateful.
Yeah.
I wake up every morning quite early, and my day starts, and I don't actually take the time to actually think in the morning. It's such
just
a routine.
go. Yeah.
4 a.m. up, shower, straight in the car, straight to work, and my run. On the way to work now, funnily enough, listening to your podcasts and other podcasts, for me, has been my way of being grateful, and actually, instead of starting my day on such an auto mode routine, it is now, okay, I'm getting up and I'm actually acknowledging what's going on.
That's beautiful. But you haven't always been like that. Like in regards to positivity, I feel like, I don't know, maybe in the last 8 years, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I have 2 mentors that nobody really knows about. And I've had Bobby's has been open for 8 years. And I remember telling myself, and people around me would tell me why I couldn't have my own shop, why I wasn't ready, why I wasn't this, why I wasn't that. And I still remember it took 37 days of me telling myself why I could, getting up in the morning, having it written down in front of me, and 37 days from the moment I started doing it to the moment we signed the contracts for the lease. And we all knew what I wanted. I was very vocal about that, even from a young age. You all knew exactly where I was headed. We all knew that I was going to have my own shop, whether it was going to be a cafe 100%. Or a restaurant, a pizza shop. It was always going to be something, and that was my goal. So with my mentors, they introduced me to actually looking at what I wanted, and instead of looking at why I couldn't have things, why I could have things.
Your why.
Yeah. So these 2 mentors have taught me that yes, there are definitely negative things out there, and it doesn't matter whether I see everything as like plants now. And no, I'm not a gardener. I'm not in that way, but the way I see life and the way I look at things, it doesn't matter whether you look at things in a negative or positive way. If you keep thinking negatively or positively, you will feed those thoughts. Mm-hmm. And the universe doesn't care about what you're thinking, but you're thinking it. So you're going to feed and grow whatever thought.
Yeah, water what you want to grow.
Yeah. But it also works in the opposite effect, where if you water that negative thought, unfortunately, I believe, even the people around you, if they, and we've spoken about this, the negative thought of people around you can grow as well.
Big time. That's why your tribe is so important. The people you speak to on a daily basis, the people you share information with on a daily basis, the people that you let in and into your lives, not through business, but through family and socially. I think that is incredibly important, and it's so funny to see when you're a kid and then into 20s and then into your 30s, and I'm sure it keeps going and it probably gets less and less, but it does. You start seeing who your tribe really is. But I just to backtrack a little bit about how we met and about our journey. So I met Daniel when we were 13 years old, 12 or 13.
At that age.
Yeah, we were in year 7.
Yeah.
We were year 7. Oh my God. I've known you for like a lifetime.
I don't know about you, but I'm getting 35, kids, marriage, and I just think sometimes I just want to be a kid.
I know. We had so many fun times getting drunk in parks.
Drunk, parks, walking. just not getting into trouble, but
No,
more
we
just getting
didn't.
up to our own mischief.
Yeah, we didn't really get into trouble. We were good kids.
No, we kept to ourselves.
Yeah, we
And
did.
talking about tribe, our friendship group was my family. For other reasons of looking back now on my upbringing, and my parents were beautiful to me, having distractions within the household, my friends were such a safe... I just felt safe, comfortable, happy, and we weren't just like one or two.
There was a few of us. Yeah. I echo that sentiment 1,000 times, because what you said is exactly the same as me. We're going through a very hard time in my young teens, probably after we met, probably 40, even 16, with my parents, and that really rattled me. And having you guys as that family, it got me through my years. I can promise you that. It was a huge support. Even though I probably didn't share a lot, it was really beautiful. I think, we just didn't really... Our parents weren't really great communicators, or we weren't taught to really communicate or be vulnerable, especially at a young age. It's really hard to do.
Well, I'm 35 and I think I've just sort of understood the word vulnerable now.
Oh, it's a very hard thing to do, but it is so important. If you... usually sadness, then we mask sadness with anger, but to break that down, you need vulnerability. Otherwise, you're just permanently angry and you're in that fight mode. Whereas if you break that down with vulnerability, the person that you're being vulnerable with is not going to lose it at you. They're just going to match your vulnerability 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah. And I think with you and I have never, until now, really done this.
No.
Where you and I knew exactly what was going on with each other, with what was going on around each other. We never spoke about the issues that were happening within our own friendship groups. But you and I have seemed, looking back on it now, we've just always been there. We've never really... We can argue...
Yeah.
But we've never really blued. People in our tribe have blued and moved, we work it all out. But you and I don't necessarily never needed to actually talk to each other, to just be there for each other.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how I feel when looking back on it now.
Yeah, 100%. But now the communication side's adding in now. It's funny.
Yeah.
But it's funny though, we've said this to each other many times, even though our lives are, the way we choose to live our lives, very different. Not very different, but a lot of the decisions I make, you tend to not agree with, and vice versa.
Again, and I'm going to say this throughout this conversation, it's not about, we've spoken about this, and I want everyone to hear this. I don't judge anybody on what they want to do with any decisions in their life, as long as they're not harming themselves or others. But in the same retrospect, I feel so strongly that I don't want to be judged for decisions that I've made. And again, I'm pretty hard-headed.
No, really?
But in saying that, I think I'm very soft towards... I'm happy to hear anybody's side. I'm not here to... I've got to listen to people, though, with what I do. And, again, yes, I'm hard-headed, but I do like to see where other people's views and opinions are.
And why.
Yeah. I am that type of person of, okay, I'm not saying you have to justify it, but I will listen to the why.
You want to know why, because your why is different, and that's a beautiful thing, actually understanding why actually people think differently, because not everyone's going to think the same as you. We're all so different. Everyone is different, 100% different. So the fact to think that we all would do the same thing does just not make sense.
No.
So, and just understanding people's background and to what motivates them to make certain decisions, it's interesting. And you get more respect that way.
I've found it really hard to be honest with myself. Yeah, at times of things that I actually love. I mean, everybody knows it now, but even like the tattoos. We were 16 and I said to you by 30 I'd be covered in tattoos. I don't think anyone would have believed me.
No way.
And the fact that I'll jump out of a plane no matter what. Like, I don't care. I'll do it. Anything that's high risk like that, I think as a teenager everyone would have been like, nah, there's no way Fick would have done that. But that's me. And I was sometimes not ashamed, but I didn't know how to actually be honest with myself. To say, hey, I actually like that. So as an adult, what I've learned, or what I'm learning, is it's okay to have that difference of opinion where one thing I love about you, and when you explain something, is it's not like, oh, I'm just doing it because it's a fad, or I'm doing it because I saw it somewhere. You dive deep into research. Now, I'm going to be the first one to put my hand up and say, I don't do that. As in, I don't have that strong opinion as to where I see you're getting your opinion from, but I do respect it enough because I haven't done the research. And I'm not going to jump into a conversation about something that I'm not educated on. So that's where I like to listen, especially with all your podcasts. I've just been listening because it's information that is new to me.
Yeah, it's out of your world. Yeah.
100%.
But that's the beauty of it. Even though it is out of your world, you know, the whole natural mama sort of holistic sort of lens of life, you don't have to understand it or agree with it in order to respect it. And I love that about our relationship because it is always respect regardless of the opinion around it. And like we said before, most of the time it's a completely different opinion.
Yeah.
But the respect is always there, and that's such an important thing when it comes to any form of relationship, or friendship, or whatever.
Right. And again, when you, being honest, when you told me you were having a home birth at the start, my initial brain was like, what the fuck is she doing? What? And then that was in my head.
It's not what came out.
No. But in my head I'm going, because I see Atlas as much as I don't want to take anything away from Floyd, but I see Atlas as a nephew for me because I love you like a sister. This is that, again, mutual respect where I'm just like, full brother mode going, I just want everyone to be safe.
Yeah.
And again, I don't understand it. And then I found out my own cousin had a water birth, and I'm going, all right, so everyone around me is doing like different things, and it's crazy, and I'm like, wow, yeah, okay, it's cool. And then like we'll go into the experiences that I've had with my two children, which are very different again. And like I respect everybody. So like for me, I just want everyone to be safe and happy. But seeing your determination with your journey is, I just love the fact that you own it, and you own what your belief is, and you don't, like, the situations that I've been through, and again, it's just knowledge. I believe knowledge is power, and I'm not going to try and talk about things that I don't know about, but listening to the stories and listening to the way Atlas came into the world, for me, the way I see it is Atlas got here and Atlas was fine. That's how I see it. Did I stop saying that? So many people have, again, so many different opinions on things. But my opinion on everything that we do is just to support. Again, going back to feeding those thoughts. If I can support anybody, or especially my friends and family, with what they want, I believe that my little 2 cents of input will help them grow to get to what they want.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's really nice. I think it's so interesting seeing that, because, a lot of relationships that do have different opinions, they just shut it down very, very quickly. Nah, don't agree with it. They want to know about it. I'm not talking like... that's just that's the first thought usually, yeah. It takes a little bit of time to kind of process that and be like, all right, because people's brain switches off. That's why I always, especially with like the home birth community and all that sort of stuff, when you're talking about like raising your children, when you're speaking to mums, it's always easier speaking to women that are like-minded because they understand and they usually do the same. However, I think it's just, it's different. Like, we all have different friends that think differently, but being able to really lay it all on the table, speak to them, and this is why. It's very cathartic, actually, being able to speak like that to people that actually want to listen, that are sort of not even in that world.
And again, going back to knowledge is power.
Yeah.
I think if you can take whatever the conversation is, or say we're conversing and this a topic that comes up, if you can take some knowledge out of that,
yeah, you're winning.
You're winning already.
Yeah.
Like, there's no negative out of knowledge.
No. And being a soundboard for someone to speak, like if you're telling me about something or vice versa, that venting and letting it out and having someone with active ears actually listening, that's therapeutic in itself, you know. Like I've said this many times, it's not always about the feedback. It's just actually just listen. Can you just listen to me for 10 minutes? You don't even have to say anything. I just need to get it out.
Without judgment.
Without judgment,
yeah.
Exactly. I know, there might be, but this is just my life story at the moment. This is just a part of my journey, and I need to say it. And having someone to do that with, it's just, yeah. And often, a lot of people wait until it gets really bad, or wait until, it's, yeah.
I can see, looking back on our relationship as adults, I can think back to some pretty hard times on both our parties. I still remember you coming over, I think it was just after your competition stage.
Bodybuilding, yeah.
Yeah, your bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And not that, like, we've never, like I said, we've never had a beef.
No.
But I think there was everyone around you, and not that we weren't close, but we just probably weren't talking as much for whatever reason. You came over. I remember, and being honest here, you looked horrible. You had pimples on your face, you were run down, and I just remember you sitting, this was at the Lower Plenty House, and you came and you just sat, and I'd never seen you so vulnerable. I didn't even realise that was vulnerable back then. And it was just that point in, you just needed your mate to just be there. And then I remember there was a time where I needed you, and it's like we can bounce our strengths of just being there for each other in a time where we've found ourselves lost or in hardship. And that's where I think the boundaries of us are always there to actually just listen.
Yeah.
Without even actually saying it.
Yeah.
But what am I trying to say? Looking back on our talks, this isn't new.
It's not. It's just happening more often.
It's just happening more often.
Yeah, hindsight is a gift like that. However, like, I think because, it's, adult life is so much more heavier, and more things tend to pack on really quickly. So I think having those conversations more frequently, like when you're younger, you have big shit that happens every couple of months. You know what I mean? When you're an adult, it's a bit more constant because there's so many more responsibilities. But it's funny how, like, when we're going through them, we don't actually really know, and then it's all of a sudden like, hey, I need a hand.
Reflection.
Yeah.
Like, I've never been able to do it.
Yeah.
And reflecting on so much of the past is, I understand why sometimes I might get myself down, or why I'm having a bad day, because at times when I'm having a bad day, I sort of do my own head in as to, how did I get here? Why did I get here? What happened?
Yeah.
But I don't think about everything.
In the grand scheme of things, you just look at
like the close lens, when you zoom out, you're like, okay, I have a reason to feel shit, or I have a reason to feel a little bit overwhelmed. Especially, I think, you know, going into your journey with your kids, like, I feel that, you know, when you were in it, in the thick of it, I didn't really know as much, because it was just, you was very focused. And I knew what was happening, but obviously I didn't, you know, want to intrude as well, because I know it's quite very personal, and not up until after. And I think, you know, I'm probably going to learn a lot now in this conversation, because I haven't heard the entire story. But yeah, I know that, you know, you've had both your children at IVF, and that I've heard your wife Elise talk a little bit about it as well, and it's fucking hard.
Yeah. It's
incredibly tough. But the biggest reason why I really wanted to talk to you as well was because, you know, most people know how hard IVF journey is on a woman. Not many people have actually heard about the men's side.
No.
You know, the support that you get from the clinics that you see, or who's helping you through the process, you know, because I feel that a lot of the time, you know, it's the man's duty, as, you know, in all relationships, to be that support network for their partners, their wives, to really be that person to uplift them. But when you're both going through a really hard time, it'll be interesting to hear how you kind of dealt with it. Does that make what I said, do you agree with what I just said?
100%.
Yeah.
We, starting off the IVF journey, for Elise, my wife and I, we always knew that we would need some form of intervention to fall pregnant naturally. My wife, Elise, has a condition where she has a benign tumour that sits on her pituitary gland, and from my knowledge, it stops the message of hormones to send through the body for fertility, let's say. And again, I'm not a doctor. This is all past information that's come along over our years being together. So that Elise and I always knew that from day one that we wanted, or Elise wanted to have children. And at the start of our relationship, I wasn't actually very paternal. I didn't really think whether or not I wanted kids.
That's crazy hearing you say that now.
Yeah, because my kids are my world.
They're your world, and you are such an incredible father. You are.
Going back to my upbringing, I just saw some things, and I just thought, I don't want to bring kids into this world, and I didn't want any form of negative in my 20s. It was all about being happy.
Yeah. Having fun.
Yeah. And so when I met Elise was very clear, and Elise has got 11 years between her and her younger sister, so she's very motherly, and I knew it straight from the bat. She was going to be a great mum.
Yeah, I could even tell.
Yeah, she's just got that nurturing.
There's just women that are just supposed to be mums.
And then, so fast forward our relationship, we get married. We were the first out of our group to get married.
You were.
And I'm the baby out of the group. So I'm the youngest of all of our friends, and I got married first. And then, you know, we already had Bobbies. I'd already started Bobbies. Got married. That was exciting. That was awesome. Had the honeymoon, got back from the honeymoon, and that's when I got hit with the news that I had tongue cancer. And that hit like a ton of bricks, and I'm very, very fortunate. I want to say this straight away, that I am very fortunate with my journey with that. It was very quick. It was very hit the nail on the head, but it was a very big eye-opener to how things can change very quickly. And again, I was very fortunate that I had something removed. I didn't have to have any ongoing procedures, and it was done and dusted within a couple of months. We got the okay I'll never forget this, we got the okay for that I had was they call it cancer-free. And that was on her birthday. That was on Elisa's birthday.
Wow.
In
What a gift.
2016. Yeah. So I still remember being at the Repat hospital, which is horrible. And I said to Elise in the waiting room when we were coming out, I needed to get one more blood test done and we were waiting for it. And I said to Elise, that was a defining moment that I wanted to be a father. And I said, it's not my decision, but I know how much Elise wanted kids. But that was the push for me. I said, we know we need help, so we decided to go see a recommended fertility specialist.
So interrupt, just in regards to you saying, so you being cancer-free prompted you to have children?
That moment in the hospital, all I could think about was, I don't want to be an old dad. I want to make the most of my life. And I just remember that was the defining moment of, I knew Elise wanted children. That was when I wanted children for the first time, where I really wanted to be a dad.
Isn't it crazy how those moments can do that to you? It's like with my brother's previous episode, which we spoke about it, Memento Mori.
Yeah.
Marcus Aurelius, he had a coin and he had a picture of a skull on it and he'd flip it and it said Memento Mori, which was to contemplate death. Because the more you contemplate death, the more you think about big decisions, the more you think about, am I a good person? Is my life in order? What do I want my life to look at? And you had this moment where your life was dangling at the start, where you didn't know what was going on. And then you're like, all right, I'm good. What do I want? How do I want to continue this life?
Yeah.
And it's really beautiful that you know, it's awful when you go through shit like that because it's fucking scary. But it gives you a really clear perspective on what you want and what you don't want.
I'm going to be completely honest and say I don't know what clicked. All I knew is that I wanted a family.
Wow, that's beautiful.
I wanted to fulfill, obviously, Elisa's void in her life at the time. But for me, I just remember sitting there going, like, babe, I want to give it a crack. Like, I know we don't know where we're sitting at this point. Like, IVF wasn't even spoken about for us then, but it was, we need to go talk to someone because we were having unprotected sex anyway. So it wasn't, we had that agreement. If Elise was to fall pregnant, we were both committed then. But
If it happened, it happened.
yeah.
Yeah, and it'd be a blessing, I guess.
Oh,
yeah.
Wholeheartedly. And so we go and see the first doctor. And before we start the IVF talk, I will say this. Everyone's IVF journey is different. I do not believe that the doctors are out there, regardless how my tone might come across in this conversation, I do not believe that the doctors are out there to scam you and take your money and not get people pregnant. I believe these doctors do want the best result. But diving into this conversation, there are my opinions on the way it was handled. And you'll find that if you go to any clinic and you have one IVF cycle and you get pregnant, that's fantastic. I think it's amazing. But I think talking about what is involved and the way we were treated through the company that we weren't successful with, and even the company that we were successful with, I believe it's a game. I believe it's a game of numbers where they've got their protocols, and like all doctors, they've got what they're going to do, and that's what they're going to do. We started our journey and we weren't doing IVF. So we went and saw one doctor, and the doctor we were doing, and I'm not going to use the right terms, I'm just going to say it how it is. It was timed intercourse. So it was the same sort of medication as IVF, and we would stimulate Elisa's body, we would ovulate. So we would do an ovulation trigger, and they would give us a window of opportunity to have sex for 3 days, one consecutively, obviously to ejaculate, obviously to try and do it the natural way, just giving it a bit of a push.
And were they hopeful that this would have worked?
they were hopeful, in my opinion, they had no clue.
Okay.
They were saying, okay, we're just going to give it a go. Now, another topic to talk about in the IVF world is that people turn around and have this stigmatism that IVF is expensive and it costs this much. What people don't understand is that you might have your cycle fee, and I'm not going to go into numbers on what people pay. I'm going to say that there's the transfer fee, there's the medication fee, there's the fee to see the doctor, there's the fee
Wow.
to get your personal scans, and when you're doing the timed intercourse, it was still very invasive. So there was still injections daily.
For Elise?
Yeah. Yep. There were pessaries, which were inserted vaginally, which you had to do daily.
Oh, jeez.
And again, there's a whole world of what we can go into.
Did you have to do anything?
At this stage, no.
Okay.
At this stage, no. So, again, I'm not going to go into timelines, but we did this for quite a while. And what it is like you have your cycle per month where you obviously shed your lining, you have a period, and you go through that.
So how many cycles did you have to go through?
I don't want to say numbers because you can turn around and say we did so many transfers, but we did it. We did, for the first time doing timed intercourse, I'm pretty sure it was over a year.
Wow, okay.
And every time it's a no, it's not, I'm not going to put it into the miscarriage pile. I'm going to put it into, you are still investing everything you've got emotionally, physically, financially.
So that's a minimum of 12 no's.
Yeah, call it that. And I reckon it's more. I've got it all written down, but I
Well, because
I
a
reckon
year's a
it's
long
more.
time. A year's
Yeah.
a very long time for that, especially when you're receiving help.
the statistics are, even if you're not, if you need no help, the doctors will tell you that you need to be trying for 6 months.
Is that what they say?
Well, it's what I've heard.
Okay, yeah.
From other people who get disheartened by not falling pregnant and saying automatically, will I have to go down the IVF
Okay.
path? At this point, I'm starting to see doctors. I've been very fortunate at this point in my life. I've never had to see doctors except for that little cancer scare. The doctors were always, in my opinion, honest with what they knew, but they weren't honest with what they didn't know.
Okay, yeah.
And in a world of fertility for so long, now, we did some research, and the first Australian successful IVF was like early 80s.
That's not that long ago.
Like 1980, and I was born in 88.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, it's
Not
not that long ago.
No.
They had their set protocols, and what I saw was no change. So we were doing the same thing month in and month out. Well, so you do the process, you get to your date where you had to have sex, or the 3 days, and then you'd have to wait 2 weeks, and it was either a yes or no.
Okay.
So we were doing that. Bang,
Okay.
bang, bang, bang. And we weren't getting anywhere.
So when did they say, all right, let's go to the next step?
So about after it, and don't quote me on this, it could be a year, it could be a little bit more.
Yeah.
We get to a point, and we are so disheartened at this point. The same doctor, he was really nice. There had nothing wrong with the doctor. He was always nice. He said, we're going to have to go through, the next step is we do and look into IVF, which he was actually going to still be our doctor. So he's gone from fertility specialist to our now IVF specialist.
Okay.
So same doctor,
Mm-hmm.
now we're going into IVF. And I've got to say this because this is something that I feel really strongly about. When you do IVF, it's changed of recent times, but when we started IVF in 2017, it would have been, I had to get a police check.
Really?
And I've still got it, yep. At least had to get a police check.
Why?
Part of their protocol. We had to have
That's
police checks.
interesting.
Yep. We had to have a counselling session.
Prove what?
They tell you of how hopeful, and they tell you the numbers, and they tell you the statistics on their success rates. The first conversation that we was talking about in our counselling sessions were, we're just going to let you know that it's up to 5 or 6 goes before you might fall pregnant, and they set you up for failure. They set you up. The first conversation that we had with the counsellor was all about failing IVF. Now, going back to my belief system of you plant, you water whatever you plant.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know that. That's crazy. So that is really upsetting. Why would they do that? To prepare you for the worst case scenario?
They would say that my mindset, and this is where I started to battle the system, was you are preparing us to fail.
Yeah, so you can get more money out of us.
It's like, not necessarily to get more money, but it's okay that we're taking your money and we're just going to do another one. And then...
But what if you can't afford to do another one?
And you wait. And you wait until you can afford it. At
What
this stage,
is it a pop?
Different clinics charge differently.
Just roughly.
Anywhere between $6,000 and $8,000 for a transfer, plus medication.
It's a lot of money.
Plus doctor's fees, plus scans if you want your internal scans.
People don't have a lot of, like, not everyone has disposable income like that.
No. And the general stigmatism is that it costs anywhere between $10,000 and $12,000.
Okay.
Which
to give it a good crack.
But per cycle.
Oh my God.
But it depends because it's changed now. This is back then.
Yeah.
It's obviously become a lot more, I don't like using the word popular, needed. And you can go to other clinics where it's you want to use the word cheaper, but they don't have the technologies to help. If you need, it's not like you've got an issue and it's IVF will fix it. That's not the point. That's not how IVF works. The rate of IVF success rates is saying, well, if they're telling us at this point you'll probably be successful between 6 and 7 transfers. What are you going to do differently from transfer 1 to transfer 7?
Yeah.
They work out on what we thought was process of elimination.
Did they ask you to do anything to your health at this stage? Did you have to eat certain differently, drink more water? Was there any recommendation with lifestyle?
No super hot showers was one big one.
Because it could kill sperm. Really? Interesting.
No seat warmers, no
seat warmers.
No seat warmers kill
seat
sperm.
warmers kill sperm.
No cycling. Not that I was a cyclist, but no cycling.
Okay.
Caffeine, which
you're at a coffee shop.
Yeah, big one for me. But that was one for me for more, I think, Elise.
Did you slow down your coffee intake?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
To from what? 50 to 2?
No. It was more being aware of how many you were consuming.
Yeah.
And
how many were you consuming? What are you consuming now, by curiosity?
No. Now it's only about 3 or 4 a day.
Only.
It got to a point where I could, and this isn't a big note, this is just being silly, 9, 10.
Oh, were you jittery at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not even the jittery that was the problem, it was you go up.
You crash.
And then all of a sudden you just go bang. And it's it's a drug.
It is.
And you come down from it, it's pretty heavy.
Especially after 9, that's a lot of come downs.
Yeah, and that's the thing, we're going off here, but you have access to it, and it's just like,
it's on tap.
Have one. I stuffed the shot, I'm going to do another one. I'm going to have another one, and I want to throw it out. But that was, the caffeine was one. There wasn't anything, like anything, you keep your body healthy and hopefully...
Did they tell you that?
Not really.
Yeah.
The counselling was to see more whether or not you were stable enough to go through the journey.
Okay, because
And
it's intense.
But I never heard of anyone being knocked back from saying you can't do it
Okay.
because you failed the counselling session.
Okay. It's just more of a bit of a pep up. Like
Yeah.
a pep talk sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you do that.
So your initial appointment, did they ask you to do any lifestyle stuff?
No.
No. Okay. It was just straight into it.
Straight into it, straight into what will happen, what the procedures are, what they're going to try and achieve, and very textbook. This is the book. This is how you're going to do it. This is what we're going to do.
So,
okay.
so what was the difference between number 1 to number 2 to number 3?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. Just let's keep trying.
I'm going to talk from a male support. I shouldn't say male support because we also have known friends, same sex, that have gone through this. I'm going to just say support person. The support person, for me, I'm sitting back and I'm listening and I'm taking in and going back to knowledge is power. I'm sitting there going, okay, now I'm going to start doing some homework. Now I'm going to start looking at what can be done differently. So we did 4 or 5.
In how long?
We went one after the other.
Okay.
Every
Month?
6. No, it's not a month because you've got the time to get Elisa's ovaries. Sorry, I don't want to get this wrong. Elisa's body at the start, where they have to get the formula right. So when they're giving you the hormones, every woman's body's different. So they start on this amount of injection and see how your body reacts to it.
Okay.
Her body didn't react, so she needed. It took some of the cycles took longer because she wasn't reacting to the medication.
Yeah.
What the medication was trying to do, and what they were expecting wasn't happening. So I can't remember if it was 4 or 5, but we get to the point with the first. If I had to go through everything, we'll be here for a very long time. So I'm fast tracking a little bit.
Yeah, go for it.
We did a stint with the first clinic, and I'm
Which
at
is
the
what,
point,
5 months, did you say?
Nah, it's probably so the same doctor was with the first year of timed intercourse.
Yeah, but how many? Yeah. but how
Now
many
we're in
months?
IVF.
Yeah.
Now we've probably gone 8 months.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So 18 months.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a long time.
Yeah, yeah. It was 16 to 18 months.
Was it Monash?
It was Monash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you jumped ship.
Yeah. So what happened with Monash?
Sorry, I just want to
Yeah.
just go back a little bit. I want to know a little bit about what you physically had to do during this. Every time that you did it, what's the word? Not implantate. Is it
Transfer.
Transfer. So what did you have to do?
So at this point, no, I personally, I was tested. I had my sperm tested, and like with pregnancy, they say you leave your dignity at the door when you go into labour and you're doing all that. Like doctors see things and all that.
Yeah.
It's pretty full on, and I'm going to be very brutally honest, and I've got mates that have done the same thing. When you ask a male to go get his sperm tested, we have to masturbate in a cup. As blunt as that is, that's not like we all joke about it. Oh, you have to go have a bat in a cup and try and do it.
It's hard.
Try and be
It's
put in a
like
room.
sterile room.
Walk into a room.
They
that
give you
looks-
magazines.
There's magazines, there's a DVD player, and we all know that we're pulling out our phone. That's as honest as it gets, because I've spoken to my mates that have done it. And you're walking into a room, and no shit. It's literally as big as the room that we're in now. There's a shower, there's a TV on the wall, there's a hand basin, and there's a couch with plastic on it. And you want me to sit here and masturbate? That's what we have to do.
Okay.
That's what they ask you to do.
Do they give you a time frame?
No. But it's just awkward. Like you
So
do what you got to do, and then all of a sudden you got to go hand it to a woman and go, here you go. I've got my.
I get nervous when I have to do a pee sample.
This is my deposit.
Yeah.
Here you go.
My deposit.
I still remember doing one. I opted to do one at home, but then they put all these not restrictions, something as silly as, okay, so you've got a 20-minute window from when you ejaculate to get it to...
How do they know it's 20 minutes?
They time it.
What do you mean? But how do
Because
they...
then they put it in, I believe they put it into either something that's... They tell you that you have to put it in your pocket.
Okay, keep it warm.
Keep it warm, but I think also something to do with keeping it close to where it's come from.
Oh.
I think. That could be completely wrong, but that's keeping it warm was one of the essential things. Then that was to get it tested, not to deposit for a transfer. So that was to get tested. So in that time, you asked what I had to do. I had to get tested.
Okay. Every time that you did a transfer?
No. They would do it roughly if more like every 12 months.
Okay, so you'd keep this. They'd just keep your sample and keep using it every time. Okay, so it wasn't too invasive on your behalf.
Not at all.
The struggles that I'm guessing were just more emotional for you.
The struggles were, I believe, from my experience, that the doctors and nurses would play on the emotions of the individual who was going through the IVF cycle. So for her, whoever they are, I believe they nurture. We're doing the best that we can, and they really make them feel comfortable, which is good, but they also fill them with hope, which, saying that sounds bad. Like I'm saying, well, you're not really going into hope.
It's almost like you when there's no hope, or when there's a failure, or not I'm not saying failure, but when it doesn't work, you have to pick up the pieces.
It's more the fact that I was looking at it going, what are you doing differently?
Yeah, okay.
What are you doing?
Perspective.
What are you doing to eliminate why we're not getting pregnant? In my mind is, you haven't done any tests. So to fast track why we left Monash was because the doctor that we had no problems with, we started asking questions. We started asking, what about this test? What about that test? What about... Research is unfortunately, social media and groups, being a part of these groups though, well, I had this test done, why aren't you doing this? Blah, you start to think, well, why aren't they doing that? They were doing the same thing. One defining moment in our journey with Monash was there's something called embryo glue, where they dip the embryo just before they transfer in a solution that's meant to help it stick to the uterus wall. We asked about it because Elise has now started doing some really in-depth research into it. The response we got was, I've got an email about that, but I haven't opened it up. And you knowing me, I see red. I just turn around and go, you're selling this. This is just a sales tip.
We're just constantly giving you money and you're doing absolutely nothing.
You are literally just feeding on her emotions now.
Yeah.
This is what's going on in my head.
Yeah.
But you want to be there for the support, but all of a sudden you're just fueling. And I'm starting to get angry now. I'm starting to get emotional. And I didn't realise it until reflecting on it now. I started to bottle up. And then we start arguing. But they're playing us. No, you got to have faith. What have they done differently? The turning point for Elise was with Monash. Was we did our last failure. I shouldn't say failure, but our last non-successful transfer. And we literally, in the same conversation, so you wait the 2 weeks. Sorry, you're not pregnant. Your levels aren't pregnant at all. So when are we going to do the next transfer? And that's when I saw Elise change. That's when I remember Elise just turning around and going, excuse me?
That's awful.
So you're mourning. I don't like using the word mourning because you're not... For someone who's gone through a miscarriage and having to miscarriage that baby, like to actually go through that, we never experienced that. We never had a miscarriage. We have had 2 pregnancies that were successful. So that's where I see the fortunate side of it. When you... when you get told no, the no gets harder, harder. The falls harder.
Yeah.
The whys, the what ifs, everything goes involved. Did I have a shower that was too hot? We haven't even gone into how hard it was to have sex 3 days in a row, knowing how much pressure's is on you. But not only that, you're a woman's body who's fueled with hormones, artificial hormones, mind you.
Yeah.
There were some really dark times where you just turn around and go like, we all love sex. It's part of us. That's something that we want. We're excited. When you're not making it a chore, you're being told that you have to do it on this day and you have to finish and you have to do this, and it's like,
it's a lot of pressure.
When you're the art of or the act of love and sex is for pleasure, you're in a moment of no pleasure.
Yeah, your sex life would be completely it's, I guess, non-existent. Like, it would be existent, but to a point where it's like, we're not robots.
No, but like first day, okay, amazing. You're so excited. But when your partner's sore and it's not enjoyable and you have to keep going, there's some real reflecting on it now. And I've got some pretty harsh memories of a couple of things where it's just like, no, I can't do it. And that's why the IVF part of it, like, we make fun of it now, but I didn't actually have to do anything to get Elise pregnant. Like, someone did it for me. It's a joke now, but there's a lot that goes involved in this.
Of course. So, once Elise had that conversation with Monash, did she come to you and say, we're jumping ship?
At that point, the knowledge of what was available around us, we found another IVF specialist. At this point, Elise had found another clinic, Number One Fertility, and this lady was labelled the Queen of IVF, and her name is Lynn Burmeister.
You had a really beautiful experience with her. No?
Lynn gave us, when I say gave us, Lynn helped us to get Melina and Michael. Without Lynn, yes, we don't know where we would have been. That's the next chapter. So, the reasons why we went to Lynn was because she left Monash, and I won't go into detail why, but she left Monash to start her own clinic. Her reasons were because, and this was from her mouth, she never said anything bad about Monash. She just said that the technology wasn't advancing as to what it could be.
Okay.
So she could offer. When we went to Lynn, it wasn't like, we're coming to you and you're going to get us pregnant. We literally interviewed her to see what she was going to do differently.
That's great.
Because I was at a point where I needed some factual evidence that why aren't we getting pregnant?
So you're on nearly 2 years of trying?
Yeah.
Yeah, with help?
Yeah, with help.
Yeah, okay. And she gave you some answers?
Oh, God. The first initial consult was what she can do differently, what her policies and procedures were, and her protocols, and what she does that no other clinic does at this point. And the reason why they don't do it is because it hasn't been tested for X amount of time, and they haven't got factual data to prove that it works.
Okay.
But she believes it helps.
Okay.
Now, looking at it now, everyone's starting to do these protocols because the timing is now at a point where they've done the data and they can prove that it works. but she knew that it would work. Her other things or other technologies that she had that was a selling point, but it was a good selling point, was the way they stored the embryos, the way they would look at the embryos.
Okay.
She showed us 2 laboratories, one of what Monash and the general IVF journey, like what they normally do, and what she did differently. And it was chalk and cheese. She factored into, like, her staff members weren't even allowed to wear perfume to work. Like, she went all out.
Yeah, she went above and beyond.
So
It's great from your perspective at the time, for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
The only problem was, she was allowed to consult in Melbourne, but she wasn't allowed to practice in Melbourne anymore because there was a fight between Monash and her new clinic.
Okay.
So we had to go to Geelong.
Oh, did you? I didn't know that. You went to Geelong every time.
Melina was conceived in Geelong.
So how many times would you have to go?
Okay, so we had 2 embryos left when we decided that we were going to leave Monash and go to number 1. There were problems with that in its own right, but it ended up being successful. Transferring because it was a risk, because you were moving them from the freezer. So you didn't want them to...
Okay.
You didn't want to interrupt the freezer because you didn't want them to interrupt the frozen part of the it was comfortable there. Excuse me. We then decided to go to number 1 fertility, and we transferred the 2 embryos. So we've got 2 embryos that were created with Monash, but we are now doing things and starting the process all over again with number 1. Now, at this point, because we've got the 2 embryos, we were like, oh, that's our safety net. It was so hard, and we haven't even spoken about the processes of how to get the embryos. It was so hard to get these embryos to day 5. We were like, okay, with Lynn's protocols, let's go back to timed intercourse for 6 months and give that a crack, because she's got different ways. So we found out that with Lynn, she asked us on the first consult, have they done this test? No. Oh, we're going to do that. Have they done that test? No. It's all in a basic blood test, pretty much. We found out that Elisa's body, that she was taking one medication to help her fall pregnant. I don't want to get this wrong. It could be folinic acid or folate acid.
Folate acid, yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
The general one,
yeah.
Elisa's body did not absorb.
Okay.
So she was taking it, and it wasn't doing
Yeah.
anything for her.
So folic... Oh, I was going to forget the words now, but I think, so one of them is synthetic, but you can purchase the one that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we ended up purchasing a bioceuticals. It wasn't medicated. It was a natural form of trying
your
to
body
help.
naturally produces it.
Yeah.
Just more of it.
And so that was a major thing. I was like, wait a minute, you're telling me from a basic blood test that we were prescribed with a medication that her body did not absorb.
So Monash didn't do this basic blood test. Okay. So then that happened. So have you done any transfers at this stage?
No, so we did 6 months of, and to be honest, I didn't even remember this. We only starting to rewrite our story.
You're crazy, you just block shit out sometimes.
Yeah, and we were like, no, we did. I'm like, no, we didn't. And she's like, no, we did. And we've got it written down. So you're like, wow. And
Did you get frustrated when she said to you, let's try timed intercourse again?
no, we sort of sat everyone down. And, okay, so one thing I did skip was at the start of our journey of timed intercourse with Monash, we didn't tell anybody.
Okay.
We only told Elisa's sisters.
Okay.
So our parents didn't know, our friends didn't know, and we were just going through it. Now that everybody knew, we were talking to everybody, especially our parents and Elisa's siblings, and my brother-in-law said, he goes, why would you've got these 2 eggs, do you really want to put all your eggs in one basket?
Literally.
So we said, because there was different technology now, why don't we try it? So we tried that, we weren't successful. So then we go, we're gonna give it a crack with one of the embryos that we've got from Monash. The poor, it's really bad because they grade the embryos before these humans are even conceived. They're conceived,
Cells.
but they're cells, but they're graded. I'm like, all right, well,
What, like how successful they could be?
between A, B, and C of the grade of the embryo.
Oh.
And we're like, oh, okay. They chose the better of the 2. Went through the process again of injecting every day, and we were doing different injections now. So Elise would do injections to herself in her stomach, and then one different one was I had to give her I don't want to get this wrong, but a Clexane injection, which was a form of a steroid, in her bum. And apparently it was meant to be the most painful injection.
Oh, God.
At the start, we actually had a client of ours who was a nurse who came over to teach me how to do it. Because Elise didn't want to inject her
that's scary.
in her backside. She wanted me to do it. And we had some, I've got to admit, we did have some fun with it. It was like, I ended up loving doing it, and I became really good at doing it. And it made it more comfortable for her.
Of course. You'd want your partner to do it rather than anybody else.
Yeah. But at the start, it was like, you're not a nurse. Why would you want your partner to do it? They're not trained in doing it.
Yeah.
And it's an injection. So it's like pretty full on.
So fast forward a little bit into the story regarding your journey to Melina. So did you end up getting, like, how many transfers? Did you get the call of, all right, sorry, you're not pregnant, when are you going to do the next transfer? Were you treated like that?
Melina was our first transfer with Lynn Burmeister, and we got Melina.
Wow.
So even though we were trying different things, our first proper transfer with Lynn Burmeister, we got Melina.
What do you think was the difference?
We found out that Elise had higher natural killer cells, so her body was literally fighting the embryo because it's a foreign object. So your body genuinely will try to discard your embryo because it's a foreign object.
So what made her absorb it?
We suppressed her immune system.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So
how did she know this?
She, with all the testing that we came back, she had higher rates of natural killer cells. So we suppressed her immune system. So, in other words, Elise had a really good immune system.
So how long until you found out you're pregnant from when you started with Lynn?
So after trying for time, it wasn't that long. It was probably 6 months, going into 7.
So you're well and truly into 2 years of trying.
Yeah.
Oh my! Tell me about that day. So did she call you or did she call you in?
No. That's over the phone. So we do what they call.
Just thinking about it.
We do what they call a lipid infusion, which is literally fat. It's white. Elise went on a drip for 2 hours before the transfer and 2 hours after the transfer. But she had to be really careful that she didn't get sick because you're literally...
we suppress the immune system.
Yeah. We get a transfer. We spend the weekend in Geelong. We go... Beautiful hospital. We do the transfer. It was... Lynn is... probably, if she ever hears this, she's probably not going to like what I'm about to say. She's like the Willy Wonka of...
fertility.
She's theatrical. Everything's pink. She's all dolled up. She was in the room in high heels and had those... The hats that they wear, the knit hats, like so that your hair doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
she had them on her stilettos, like her shoes, her high heels, doing the transfer. I thought it was the funniest thing in the world. We do that. We spend the night in Geelong. We go. The 2-week wait is really tough.
It's 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Okay, so she called you.
So we get one of her nurses called, and they're amazing. We are at home. I took the day off work because I knew we were getting a phone call whether yes or no. Elise, I'm pretty sure this was with Melina. Elise would have pregnancy tests and she was waiting for it because the hormones that they give off that you're pregnant. So they say don't do it. Elise kept buying. I used to find pregnancy tests all over the house and they were all positive, right? But they were positive, but they weren't pregnancy. They weren't actually positive. We're sitting. We're in the living room at the old house. We're on the couch. I'm on the armrest, and we get the phone call, and your belly drops and everything goes okay. And she goes, "Oh, this is whoever from Number One Fertility," and straight to the point, I'm just going to let you know that you're successful. You're pregnant. And I'd never forget Elise's scream.
Were you on loudspeaker? Was she on loudspeaker?
No, she wasn't actually. She wasn't on loudspeaker. And Elise was like, "What? You're pregnant. You're pregnant." And the thought, I'm an emotional guy, so for me, even now, just remembering that, I just cried. And then I called my mum. So Elise is called, you're jumping up and down. At this point, I'm crying and Elise is not crying. I'm in tears and Elise is just hyperventilating. I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant.
I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah. It's that I'm pregnant. I can do it. The realisation of it can be done. I can do it. I remember calling my mum and for some reason my nonna was with my mum. And my mum goes, "What?" And I couldn't say it. I physically couldn't say she's pregnant. And mum goes, "Is she pregnant?" And I said, "Yeah." Aww. And I'm just like the realisation of what, then you start calling everybody. Because at that point, you're so invested that everybody knows. So this whole 12-week wait, and I'm going to wait until I'm safe.
You let everybody in.
We were 4 weeks or 5 weeks. At that point...
At the conversation,
yeah,
it's 4 weeks.
I think it's 4 weeks. Could be 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I always get confused how they work out the numbers, but it was very early on. And that's why I like this whole thing of, it's... you got to wait 12 weeks to tell people that you're pregnant. For us, it wasn't an option because... we became so vocal about it. Our clients knew.
Everyone was invested in your story.
Everybody was on it. So we start making the phone calls and it's early days, but she's pregnant. The one thing with Elise was she believed once she was pregnant, everything was going to be smooth. And it was.
So her pregnancy was pretty
Her pregnancy was you go through the no morning sickness.
Amazing.
What was it? A heartburn was a major problem for her, to the fact that she needed some pretty strong meds to help her.
Towards the end or throughout the whole thing?
Towards the end.
Yeah.
Obviously the fatigue. I can't remember whether she had an iron infusion for Melina or not, but she ended up needing iron. I know at one point, whether it was Michael or Melina.
So were you at this point incredibly... what was going through your head once you found out you were pregnant? Did you feel the same as Elise where you were saying everything's going to be okay?
Elise used to ask me all the time why I would never get emotional when it was a no. Why, when it wasn't a successful transfer, why it didn't really affect me. Something that didn't affect me. I thought about it all the time. Father's Day for those 3 years for me, and we just had Father's Day. Father's Day for me was always a big, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't even want to celebrate with my own dad because I just didn't want that. That was how it affected me. I said to Elise, she said, why don't you get upset? You don't seem like you're getting upset because we're not falling pregnant. I said, I'm only thinking about holding my baby. That was my goal. My goal was sitting on the couch or standing in front of the couch in that living room holding my baby.
So you were watering that plant.
I didn't know how, I didn't know when, I didn't know why. I knew that I was going to hold my baby.
When you pictured yourself holding it, did you know it was going to be a girl?
Looking back on it, yes. But at this point, you don't care.
Nah.
At this point, it's like, as long as they're healthy.
Yeah.
And like I've got friends who have gone through the pregnancy thing now and that are going through it, and I tell them, I go, you're worried about getting to this stage of this. I said, mate, you're going to be worrying when it's delivery day, and you're going to be worrying when you go home, and you're going to be worrying.
It doesn't stop.
When you become a parent, I personally believe you're a parent before the baby arrives, wholeheartedly. You are nurturing, you're nurturing a living thing. You are growing a human. You're a parent. It's what I believe.
Well, especially with the journey you're going, and you're so invested emotionally, physically, spiritually, in all aspects. Like, why wouldn't you be a parent? You're doing everything you possibly can. But the fact that you knew that and you're focusing on just holding her, I think that is so special, and probably something that's what kept you sane throughout the whole time.
Yeah. I found Melina's IVF journey, for me personally, if I had to scale it, a 2 out of 10, whereas Michael, for me, it being hard to conceive Michael, was a 10 out of 10 of how hard it was.
Wow. So Melina's, even though it took over 2 years, it still wasn't that hard.
Not that it wasn't hard.
In comparison.
Different things happened emotionally with Michael's journey.
Yeah.
The negatives really started to become negative for me.
Because it was a continuation from your first experience, and you felt like you had to relive the emotions as well?
You asked me about number one fertility, and how much you loved them. With Melina, I did. Like, they did everything in their power to do what they needed to do.
Well, it happened pretty quickly with her.
It did. But the same trends, and I'm not saying that they meant it, I'm not saying it was done on purpose, but the same trends of the complications of being told no kept coming back. So then Michael's journey, the negatives started to happen again. So again, you've got your pregnancy, you've got your baby now, so you're dealing with a baby. So you're doing baby, COVID now. COVID was a factor. You're dealing with the tiredness, and you're dealing with you are now dealing with having a successful transfer to now going back to not having successful transfers.
And also running a business during COVID, that was fucked.
Yeah.
The shit that you had to go through, I remember lining up behind buckets, and like that alone was stressful. And then you had to put, how old was Melina at the time?
Well, I know Melina had her first baby Chino, and I've got a mask on in the photo. Like,
when you started trying for Michael?
Yeah, so we started trying for Michael when Melina turned 1.
Okay.
And Melina's first birthday was at home in lockdown.
Wow.
So Melina, we don't consider a COVID baby because she was born in August of 2019.
Yeah.
End of 2019,
yeah,
going into 20.
That's when
it ramped up.
Mm-hmm.
Melina's actually baptism was the day before the first hard lockdown.
Yeah, wow. So there was so many different issues at that time. So life was very hard at this stage.
At this stage, we had to worry about COVID. At this stage, we had to worry about business. Are they going to shut us down? Which, fortunately enough, no, that we did not get shut down. We also had the problem that we were busy because we were a communal hub for people to get out of their house for those stupid rules.
Oh my
But
God.
people used to come to us because they were allowed to.
Yeah, coming to you was a saviour for me as well. Was getting out of the house.
But then I had people criticising me because the business was too busy, and I'm going, wait a minute. I'm only. We had people aggressively, verbally abusing the staff because there were people outside the cafe. Mind you, I've got to deal with that. Then I've got to go home, deal with our baby, which Melina was great. Melina was such a good baby. Like, she slept, she ate. There were times it was tough, don't get me wrong, but...
Baby stuff.
Yeah, baby stuff. But Melina was a blessing, as that. Melina slept from 6 weeks on. Like, it was amazing.
That's so good.
Yeah.
But why don't we save Michael's journey for part 2?
Michael's journey's definitely going to need a part 2.
Yeah. See you next time.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you received a few good takeaways from it. If anybody popped into mind while you were listening, please send it across to them. This will really help promote my podcast. To follow everything that I'm doing at the moment, head to my Instagram page, Holistic Healing with Steph Marie. Thanks again, guys. Have the best day, and I'll see you on the next episode for more conversations that are raw, honest, and